Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are doing great today. Today we are just moving on, and it's going to be our session on CSS. So as we said before, the abbreviation of HTML, which is hypertext markup language. So CSS also is an abbreviation for cascade style sheet. So here, when we are hearing the name, we said cascade. So what we mean by cascade? And we said style sheet. So it means that there is something within the name we can get to a point by saying cascade. So there is a sort of sorting the style in a cascading way. What do we mean by cascading? Do you know what does it mean, cascading? Anybody? What cascading mean? Wakey, wakey. We are in the class. Hello. Okay. No, not really, Colchin. Cascading. تنظيم شكل. Thank you. This is good. So cascading is mean sorting the things one on the other. So if we have something, so like the newest one is going to be above, and then the second newer is going to be under it, and the third newer is going to be under that, and so like so on. So the style sheet is going to be, the oldest one is going to be behind everyone, and the newest one is going to be on top. So from here, we understand that we have different sort of style, or we have different type of style. That's why there is a cascading for it. Well, if we have different type, so that it has to be in a different way to declare it in our website. So let's go and check it and see what is what are the types of style. So first, if we said that we have a paragraph, okay, let's just say hello, all. Here, if I gave a style, for example, let's say color, red, Control S. So if you are going here and do a refresh, we see this hello, all in red. Great. This one, we call it inline style. Okay, this one we call it inline style. Well, we have another one which is different than this one, and we call this one style between a tag. Instead of written it in the tag of the element, we have a new tag for it, or it's a new element that we can use it here. So for this one, if I want to have H1, we will write it this way. H1 color blue. Control S. This one we call it internal style. Control S. So if we are doing a refresh, oh, sorry, I don't have a heading here, H1. H1. So without giving any style here, I gave the style above. So we are saying impact project, Control S. So here we gave a style internally. Why we are calling internally? Because it's still in the HTML tag. That's why we are calling it internally. This is the second type of HTML. This is the second type of style in HTML. We have the third type of the style that we can use. This one we call it external. So what do we mean by external? Do you know what external mean? Guys, what does it mean external? Zorta, that's خوش. So here what we are doing, we are opening a new notepad. Okay, this time we are saving it, but this way, Control Alt S, we are saving it in the same folder where we are saving all our sites. So we are just doing it or saving it in the same folder, and we name it first external style dot, instead of name it HTML, we name it CSS because this is for style. That's why we name it, and then the extension is going to be CSS. Instead of HTML, we use CSS here. Then save. Now I have my CSS file. Then I will add, for example, I will add for the body, or let's say for the pre-formatted. We will use color yellow. Then background color red. Control S. Now we have this pre-formatted, and we just use this style for it. We save it. Then we are coming here in the tag of head, as we did with the style. In the tag of head, we have a new tag. It's called link. It's one of the open tag. So it means that we don't have a closing tag for it. And then we will write the real file is going to be style sheet. Then the href is going to be the name of our file. What is the name of our file? We have it here. It's called first external style.css. Control S. Here we are adding a pre okay. We add this, then we will write in this between this is a pre-formatted paragraph. Control S. As we see here, we didn't give any style to it, but when we are going here and to refresh, you see, this is a pre-formatted paragraph. So it took the style from the external file. So this one, we call it external style. Okay. So what we have here, we have inline style, we have internal style, and then we have external style. Well, we said, and we talked about cascading. And we said the cascading means a sort or a kind of sorting the style. So from here, we understand that the HTML will give priority to the inline above the internal. And then the second priority is going to be for the internal above the external. So external is going to be the third and the last priority here for the style. So if we gave in the external and we said, yes, we have a paragraph here as well. Okay. And we came here, we said the color, let's be navy. Control S. So if we are going back here, this is gonna be blue, but because we already give in the internal that or in this line style, we gave it the color is red, so it's not applying. If I remove this, Control S, now if I do refresh, it's gonna be navy, the dark blue. So if I gave a style here, it will ignore this one. And also if I gave a style here to this edge one, it's going to ignore the internal one. And if I gave a style here to the paragraph or the pre-formatted paragraph, it will ignore this one. So that's why we call it cascading. So the first priority is for what? Is for the inline. The second for internal, and the last for external. So if we gave style in external, later on, we gave another style in internal, it will ignore the one in external. So, and if I gave another style inline, it will ignore both internal and external, and it will just apply the one that I gave it here internally. So this is how the style sheet is working. Now, as we show here, I just gave each one a color. Well, if I want to use a selector, so I don't want to be in general. For example, I want to have another paragraph, or let's say if I want to have a sort of style, I will name it A, and this A, let's have a certain of style, color. Thank you, Mr. Color. Let's say be maroon. Then the text align be on the center. And the font size be 20. Control S. If I want to have this style and I want to apply it wherever I want, so I need to have a selector in this case. So we have three different kind of selector, which is the first one is an ID, the second one is a class, and the third one we call it universal. So let's apply the first one. How we recognize the ID. The ID is start with a hashtag. It start with a hashtag. So here, if I want to apply this style on my paragraph, what I will do, I will just say ID equal to A. Control S. So I have an ID here for this sort of style. Now, if I refresh it, the color changed to maroon and the size changed to 20 and it is in the center. So this is how we are using an ID to apply a certain style on a certain element. Let's have B. I want to, yes, it's an ID selector. Thank you, Mushta. So let's have B and say B is font family, the Arial, text align be on the right. Okay. The background color be sentiment. So yeah, what I'm doing, I'm just giving a background color here. Let's say pink. And Control S. So I want to use this one, but I don't know which sort of selector I can give here. So I will give a dot. So this dot mean that this one is an class selector. This one is a class selector. So for the class selector, what we are doing, we are saying the class equal to the name of the class. What is the name? B. Control S. So here for the ID, here for the ID, we said this one is a hashtag. So for the class is a dot. So this dot means that we have a class here. So let's go back here and do refresh. Now I see the background is pink. It's on the right side and the color, let's say the font size is Arial as we choose here. It's free style. Just I want to have this in case color triple C, H3, Control V, yes. So we have this one, Control S. I just made it to have it here. I know these colors are so terrible. I'm sorry. 3, and change this pink to something else. To blue. Control S. Refresh. Yeah, now it's fine. So as you see, the colors are more obvious and more clear. I can just change this to 333. Oh, no, we use 333 for 5. Refresh. Yeah, it's more grayish. So, yep. I just want you to know about those things. So the internal inline style, I just keep it here. So this is gonna be class indicator. Let's say here is we are using this for commenting in CSS, a / and a star. This is an ID selector. Then this one is gonna be a class selector. Control S. So we have this one is a general one. For the mentioned element. Control S. So we have this one is a general for the mentioned element, which is here is the H1. We can give it to a P, we can give it to a pre, we can give it to an A for a link or for a span or for a D, for anything. We can just give it this way. Here is just for an ID selector, and this one for a class selector. Control S. And refresh here. You see nothing is appear because these are a comment. This is how we are writing comment in CSS. So let's go here, and this time using the global or universal selector. What we mean by universal selector? Do you have any idea? And why we call it universal? Yes, Mishda. Why we call it the universal selector? Any idea, anything? Just like say something maybe is right, and even it's wrong, you are just like trying. So don't feel shy, and we are not getting angry on any of you. زور طوافينك دست خوش. Because it's general. We can just use it for applying on all the elements that we have it in our website, between HTML tag, the opening, to the HTML tag of the end. So here, if I want to use the universal selector, it is denoted by a star. So this one is universal selector. So if I come here and I set the margin in, make it 0, this is like a space controlling. Later we will talk about more deeper, but I want just to apply it here to let you see what will be the output. So if you are looking here, there's a space between them. So after we apply this universal selector and we said make the margin 0, it will remove all the space between the elements. So this one is gonna be applied on all the elements. Like we cannot say this is just like for the heading, or this is just for the body, or this is just for the paragraph, or this is just for the pre-formatted paragraph. No, when we use this universal selector, whatever we wrote in between is going to be applied on all of our website without exception. So this is how we are using the universal selector. Well, as we see here, we use this general one, we use the ID, we use the class. So sometime you want to use, for example, one style for only one element. So in this way, what you are doing, before the dot, you are adding the element. For example, I want to apply a certain style just on the paragraphs that I'm using, or I just want to apply just on the divs that I will use it, or just on the spans that I will use. So still you are name it within a class, because you will use it in a certain places, but you will just specify for one thing. For example, you are saying this is, I'm just using it for paragraph, or I'm just using it for links, or I'm just using it for span, or I'm just using it for divs. It's up to you. You are just name it, and then later on you are just using it for this element. So you cannot use it for other element because you specify it. That's why you can just specify a certain style with a class name, then later you just have permission to just call it in these way, in these places that you are preferring to show this style there. Nice and easy, and it's really more fun than the inline style here, because as you saw, we can just write all our style here and then just call it once here and apply it, or we can just put it in a tag, between a tag, a style tag, then apply it, or we can just go between the line in the tag where we want to use, or in the element, we are just adding the style, this attribute, and the properties as you saw here. So there's no big difference. If you are just looking here, I just wrote style equal color, but here I just once open one tag, and then I will add the styles, and later on, or you are just calling it, or even you don't need to call it, you will just make it generalized for the H1, or for the H2, or for the H3, or for paragraph, or for pre-formatted paragraph, or for div, or for a span. It's all up to you. Or for a table, you can just apply it this way. So there's no problem at all. And even like for the table, this is way much fun and way much easier, instead of just like writing the style and giving the border and the color and the style of the border in the lines. one by one. You can just like once you will add all the style of the table in one line and voila, apply it on your website without any problem. So that's why we are using the style in a different way, because it's up to you. If I didn't mention in the exam that use which sort of style, you feel free to use the style that you want. But for this exam, which is tonight's exam, you have to use the inline only, because today is the first day for external and internal. That's why you don't, let's say, you are not permitted to use these two. Just stick to the inline one. However, if you are doing it internally, for me, I don't care. I will give you the mark, but may you make mistakes and later on don't come to me and say, oh, because I just used this one, that's why I made this mistake. No, it's not my business. So it's up to you indeed, but I prefer to use the things that you are more familiar with. Later on for the next exam, I will force you, because I will ask you in the question, I will say use the CSS style, especially I will just like mention it, or use the internal CSS style, or I'll use the external CSS style to implement this website and give me the result as it's shown here. So yeah, you can just do it this way. No problem, no issue, and you can do it nice and easy. So yeah, you can just do it this way without any problem. This is the external file. I just gave this style to it, and there's no problem at all. You can just use the external, you can use the internal, but keep in mind that if you use the external, you don't need to use internal and inline. But if you decide to use internal, this way you are ignoring the external one. If you have something that they are just like conflicting to each other, it will apply the one which is you added recently in internal style. So if you change anything and you give it in the inline style, so it will ignore the first two, and then it will apply this one. So that's why you have to be careful. If you use a sort of style, just stick to this one and don't make change that much, because you will ignore the previous one. It won't affect anything here, but you will like waste time. So if you decide to use inline, so just use inline. If you decide to use internal, use internal. If you decide to use external, use external. It's up to you. No one can force you except me. Yeah, because I have permission. So thank you for your participation for today. I will leave you with Mama Adnan. Please practice, because like web develop is more focusing on practicing, and the rest is up to you. So practice, 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 and wish you best of luck for tonight's exam. It's gonna be easy. Just focus and don't be hesitate, because I gave you everything. Even for the practical, I gave you all the structure, and just like follow the manual that I gave you, so you will do the best website and you will get really good mark. Thank you, and wish you best of luck. Go ahead, Mom Savnar.